Hello and welcome, beautiful people. We are gathered for a Digital World Town Hall today. Today is March 18th. We have some special new guests, and we're going to be focusing on a town hall meeting that goes around the perspective of one world and one people. We're joined by a live audience, and the things that we'll talk about today is primarily around advancements over the last week, any kind of Q&A. And then as a reminder, we do have hosts that are with us. If you have questions, feel free to direct it to them, whether it's online, which is streaming on multiple channels, or if it's in person. As a reminder, this is a private membership association, and some of the things that we may discuss might be forward-looking. For those that need a refresher, we believe that there are secret combinations around the world. They come in different forms and in different types of what we call private secret combinations. Maybe it's oil, maybe it's health, maybe it's insurance, maybe it's finance, but they usually work together to basically take from private combinations into public combinations where they take over monetary systems, which we're starting to have a lot of clarity on, understood, at least what's happening in the United States. I don't know if you saw, but there were 13 devices that certain people call just money creators, magic money machines, 13 of them. Similar stuff that we've talked about, or at least understood within the money issuances world, but whole nother conversation, something we won't talk about today. But these private combinations basically work through other organizations such as the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, to then work with different countries, and through project finance, basically centrally control humanity. And we'll talk a lot about that, but we believe that decentralized systems are the way to be able to create a counterbalance to that. And so we'll dive into what decentralized systems are, what they're not. And we'll also talk about what people are saying about them and what's maybe not a whole understanding. But today we'll actually talk about three people that I massively respect, and basically how they're just seeing it wrong, and we'll go through that. But the goal is to have the digital world be a part of a neutral environment where no one owns it, no one controls it, but it helps to find that balance for humanity through decentralized systems where there are keys that the individual owns, and then there are derived keys that basically enable freedom of ownership of these private assets, where artificial learning and machine intelligence can't actually take it. The goal is to connect the physical and digital worlds through decentralization and sustainability. First off, again, what are we at? The 18th of March. And literally just within the hour, we had the astronauts come back and land here on Earth. And I had reports from some folks around that there are actually dolphins that were swimming around. I don't know the details of it, but I'm just grateful for people that do what they say they're going to do, and they dream. They have a vision and they go and do it. And I would like to just put a shout out to those that are standing up for what's right, even though there are people out there that may do things that are just crazy or we may not understand. Like even 4 or 5 hours away from where I'm sitting today, they're burning Tesla dealerships. You know, for someone that's adding value within society, just brought people back from other parts of the world. I just want to say thank you to Elon, and thank you to the things that are happening. Speaking of things that are happening, the markets are all over the place, whether we're talking about what this is particularly an exchange pair within the cryptography world, or the people call it crypto world. These are the markets as of today within the stock market world. So these are the public markets, the consumer environments, health, finance, and different categories. And then these are environments with just basic all markets. So you can also talk about commodities, equities, currencies, exchanges. And so you kind of see them all over the place. And one thing that's important, at least to understand, is how does all this fit together? What does it mean? What's the big difference? And how is it the digital world can focus in on key priorities and actually help to add value with a lot of noise that's out there in the world? So for those of you that know, we touch base on all this stuff that's happening every week, but I do my best to just stay away from it and to try and stay focused on really, and this may sound weird, but spiritual basis and alignment, because things are created spiritually before they're created physically. We see that all over the place. Some of us struggle to actually realize what that is, or understand us as individuals, as powerful creators, all of us individually, collectively. But What the focus is for the roadmaps and the top priorities is out of everything that we're focused on and have the opportunity to do. Again, for those that may not be aware, when we say do, it's doing it around decentralized systems, true decentralized systems that have derived keys that separate the centralized control and what will happen with artificial intelligence in the future. And this is the priority of at least tactical things. So number one, exchange. Number two, phones. So for those that are not aware, like we do have some first timers, we built decentralized phones. So these phones are not Apple, they're not Google. They have their own operating system derived from Android, but tore Google out of it. Then they have an operating system and marketplace that 230,000 apps, and then 16 decentralized apps that remove the. We're getting feedback. Some of our visitors. We'll go ahead and drop out and see who that is real fast. Oh boy, Andrew, we got to mute you, buddy. Come on. There we go. That's okay. Welcome, welcome. Okay, sorry about that. Where were we at? We were over here. Okay, so we talk about all this noise and craziness out there in the world. For me personally, when I see these Tesla dealers, it's a natural driver to just execute on number 4, which is basically around autos. We're going to talk a little bit about autos in a second. And then the homes, there's over $700 million in pre-orders for the homes. And the phones is a natural, for me, it's a natural love to just focus energies in building there, particularly around 2 new phones. And I'll pop those up here real fast for those of you. So these are the home environments, the autos environments. We won't talk about boxes or bikes. We will talk about life because that's what it's all built around. But when we talk about these new phones, there's a lot of excitement around them. A couple new models in addition to a Clear phone, a couple new vendors. So there's a lot of moving parts, but I think it's really important to not only stick with what is the one thing that we focus on or nothing else matters throughout the whole year, but how do we prioritize top focuses and priorities? And it keeps popping up around this exchange. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're going to talk about this after we go through a couple videos of others that are out there. And then I'm going to come back to these goals based upon kind of helping to clear up some of the things that are said. Now, I'm going to stream here real live. This is inside of ClearWeb. So this is actually a web browser, and everyone should be able to hear this remote and not. So let's go ahead and see if we can. Now, again, I want to preface this by what they're saying is not a truth from my perspective. And I'm going to try and help you to see the flaw in their perspective. Now, first off, this gentleman, like with this Great Awakening tour down here in the bottom right, I was one of the individuals that was locked arm in arm where we would go to different states every other month, or actually every month to a different state. And we would talk about it, but he started talking about paper ballots. He started talking about how crypto was a negative thing around control. And I personally believe that. I believe that digital systems are actually going to enslave humanity. But decentralized systems that use derived keys can actually free humanity. So everything is going to go digital, whether we realize it or not. We can't hide from that. I don't care if you're a farmer growing your own food. If you want to buy nails for a saddle, you're going to have to engage that environment. One of the most amazing men I know that stayed off grid, same type of thing. But I'm going to go through a couple of these statements, and I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to walk through and help you to understand where it's a little bit wrong. So here we go. Michael Flynn.
Equals financial security, and it's just equals financial security. And it's just like Tucker said, people are very private about it because somebody says, hey, have you ever invested in gold? Yeah, I invested a little bit. I dabble here and there, but you don't want to tell people exactly what you're doing.
I would say one more thing about gold that I find fascinating is that it is the most private of all currencies. So the great lie of my lifetime is that crypto was going to be private and was going to free us from, surveillance and control. And that is just not proven true. And no one's really tried hard to make it true.
Now I'm going to restate these again. Listen again.
Cryptocurrency equals control. Gold equals security. Gold equals financial security. And it's just like Tucker said.
Now, I don't believe that to be holistically true. So I don't believe that crypto is short for cryptography, which is really math. I don't believe that intelligently organized systems or math or cryptography or crypto is actually just around control. It's around transparency. But if the individual's identity is obfuscated and machine learning or artificial intelligence can't follow it, then the statement that he made is not accurate. Now, this comment around gold we'll get into in a little while, but I just really want to make sure that you understand that. And then listen to what Tucker says. Here we go.
Cryptocurrency equals control. Gold equals security. Gold equals financial security. And it's just like Tucker said, people are very private about it because somebody says, hey, have you ever invested in gold? Yeah, I invested a little bit. I dabble here and there, but you don't want to tell people exactly what you're doing.
I would say one more thing about gold that I find fascinating is that it is the most private of all currencies. So the great lie of my lifetime is that crypto was going to be private and was going to free us from, surveillance and control. And that is just not proven true. And no one's really tried hard to make it true.
Now, the reason that you're either listening to this or that you're either streaming online, you are here because you're a part of the folks that actually want to make it true. We are actually here and dedicated to help bring that to a reality where people can actually truly have their own systems and actually be free. This is going to be another individual and a key point. Here we go.
Small, but is it safe? A lot of people aren't sure. When I send my money, if I use my money and I put it in crypto, where does it go and is it safe?
That's a great question. And if you try and do this on your own in a decentralized wallet, as they're called, someone will hack you most likely because you don't know what you're doing. To make it safe, go to an accredited exchange like Coinbase, something that is regulated, but also that you can see every day on your phone, that has millions of accounts, so it's got real structure.
Now, all of these points, everything that we just heard from Tucker to General Flynn to Mr. O'Leary, all of them are actually flawed. And here's why. For instance, Kevin O'Leary lost $15 million with FTX. FTX is an exchange. It wasn't regulated, but it's an exchange just like Coinbase. FTX held his keys and his assets, just like Coinbase holds its members' keys and their assets. Now, if Kevin actually held his own cryptographic keys or his own wallet, which is the core of Bitcoin, that's what it was all about. You get a private key and a public key, and then all these other cryptographic systems are the same way. If you put your trust in some other system and that other system doesn't have one-to-one transparency, like the utmost transparency, audits, insurance, etc., you're literally just asking for trouble, the same types of trouble that Kevin got in. Now, I hope there's a day that I can meet with Kevin and I can spell that out in such a way where he can say, you know what, this makes sense. Because we can't just stick our heads in the sand like General Flynn is saying crypto is just about control. And so we got to go and just not use it. We're only going to use gold. Now, I'm in a state where gold is actually recognized as a currency. It's one of the only states in the United States of America, Utah, inside of the Constitution, it's built there. But the reality of being able to pay for something with real gold, whether it's coins, bars, foils, it's just not reality. But to get a digital receipt that is backed by that is reality. And that's going to be a chunk of what we're going to talk about today. So when we focus in on some of these other elements, we see in the future inside of the digital world, whether it's through a jurisdiction like the Hawaiian Kingdom or one of these different, let's see if I can pull up. No, they're not here. I'm going to go to the Pacific Union and I'm going to go through a couple of these different countries here. So maybe it's one of these countries. There's a couple of them that are not on here. Maybe it's one of the countries that's not on here, like the Mexican country. Maybe there's a jurisdiction within an environment that does certain things around insurance, banking, legislation, finances, mints, etc. Or maybe it's just straight up the digital world. But the point that I'm driving at is there will be exchanges and there will be different types of exchanges. Some of them that focus on silver and gold. kind of like what we're looking at here. So this is, imagine an interface where you can actually manage, just like you would in a bank. You can manage paper dollars, gold dollars, or other things that are similar to them. Not everything in the world is a dollar, by the way. It might be a renminbi, a mark, a yen, a dollar, you name it, but there's different value exchanges that tie to them. What if those value exchanges could actually tie right to the existing fiat systems, but using gold, whether it's an actual currency-based gold or non, like a collectible, so to speak. But imagine exchanges that are basically helping with currencies, equities, and commodities. And maybe it's just gold, maybe it's just commodities, maybe it's a full-blown stock environment like the digital exchange. So the point that I'm driving at is there's a future where digital assets are tied to physical things, but the actual owners are truly the individuals. Around, remember these private keys that we talked about up here? These private keys is what it's all about. An individual getting their own 12 words. So think about it. We as humans, maybe 40% of humans have bank accounts around the world. Maybe the number's less. We actually go to a bank and fill out a bunch of paperwork and think we jump through what they call KYC, know your customer, and AML, anti-money laundering processes to be able to get a number in their system, which was designed in the 80s, okay? The banking and stock worlds were designed in the 80s by some amazing people, by the way, and I won't be specific there, but some folks on the call and know and understand exactly what I'm talking about. And I believe that the wisdom and knowledge that created them in the 80s and 90s can actually help to manifest them in our dispensation and our generation for future generations. And it's not going to some bank account and saying, would you give me a bank number, maybe a savings, maybe a money market, maybe a checking, and then I'm going to put my efforts and energy, the sweat from my brow, into your bank, and you can loan it out 10 times to somebody else, or even crazier stuff, which we won't even get into. And then if something happens, let's say you don't do anything and the fees in the bank actually build up and it goes into a negative, and 60 days later your account gets closed. What if you had that account for 20 years? All of your records and history goes with it. And you know what? You chose to actually say, I am going to be a member of this bank. I am going to be in this state. I am going to operate with this name, and I'm going to be subservient to the rules that are rolled out there. But what these 12 words or 24 words give you are the ability to be free of that. And from generation to generation, pass assets, not just what the world calls cryptocurrencies and dollars and cents, but I believe that assets such as buildings and cars and homes and water and air and just basic freedoms will be able to be transferred from generation to generation like we've never understood before. I'm going to jump into some things that tie to really, so these are different environments that we've rolled out, by the way. That's Utah Stock Exchange. That will be one of the future exchanges that I'm talking about, this Utah Stock Exchange. These are some of the auto stuff, some of the home stuff, some of the payment stuff. I want to, by the way, the Real ID, here's a pointer. We need to check this since we're so close. Let's see how far we have. We are 49 days out from the Real ID going into effect. And I believe that this is actually what will be the downfall of the next shift. It's not about a pandemic. It's not about some bombs dropping. It will literally be around identity. Identity is the core of everything, because we as individuals, I don't think, at least I know that we don't realize the importance of each one of us, the importance of the ability for us just to breathe and be in a body here on earth and literally have an experience to learn and to grow and to create. And we don't see that within ourselves. And so we become or allow ourselves to become a part of a system that others control. And these secret combinations, I'm telling you, I promise you, they truly do desire to control others, and they find power in that. But each of us have a power and an ability to literally pull ourselves out and do it on our own. And it's done in such a way where we can actually do it with these derived keys. And many people may not understand what derived keys are. So I'm going to explain this again. Okay. Crypto is short for cryptography, which is just math. It all comes down to just numbers and math. Really, it's just super simple. So I always show you this cryptographic key that has 24 words. Well, you can do it with 24 words or 12 words. Now, we basically do it with 12, not because it's less secure, but because of the way the derived key sequences work off of it. So if you basically take 12 and then you build 12 on top of it, there's literally, so this is what we call a decentralized ID. This was basically created from a gentleman named Sam Smith. Carry, which is key receipt, which does key rotation. It's for the future. I mean, literally every barcode, every QR code that's standardized around the world will use the same DID architecture for the things that we're talking about. It will do key rotation, pre-key rotation, current pair, previous care. So in other words, you know how you get a credit card and it's got a word number on the back and then a number on the front? That's public and private. And then they send you out a new one every 2 years. You don't need that anymore. It's all built into it. So literally your identity, your data, your education, your health, your social platforms, your credit, your reputation, everything, it all ties back to a key that uses a derived key for all of it. And let's say you have different crypto assets in a wallet, you can actually have different wallets and different crypto assets and different keys for every single asset and every wallet. This is absolutely the future for identity. And it all starts with identity. So you get a key, you as the individual link with a cryptographic number, and then it creates a key that's for you. And instead of doing it in such a way where you've got lots of doors and lots of keys, it literally, instead of having a nightmare, in other words, this is what AI would have to figure out, which a lot of people, you got to understand, I believe that the internet was to knowledge being disseminated around the world to all tongues, all people, all generations, and languages being aligned. So they can't separate us from the languages anymore. I mean, I've literally been to China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, India, all wonderful, crazy parts of the world. Sweden, and language is not an issue at all because of technology. And I would say that it's just the opposite. So whereas the internet would actually align us to go around the world with one people, one world, I believe that artificial intelligence will actually connect us, prove that we're one family through genealogical studies. We are all one. Yeah, we may have darker skin, we may have different color eyes, but a lot of it's just based upon where we lived and how long over generations over time. But we all bleed, as Mr. Trump would say, the same color red. Now, why would I talk about that craziness when we're looking at keys? Because keys really matter. Tokens matter, signs matter. They're very, very important. And when we look at them and have shared things, so for instance, imagine you don't need to use a username and password anymore. You are the key. You take a cryptographic key, you combine it with you, a private master key combined with you. On an Android or Clear platform, it's through your finger. On an Apple device, it's through your face. Face is much more intrusive, whole nother conversation there. But basically, then there's derived keys that come from that. All your passwords can come off of it, all your apps, all your data, your wallet. So imagine if you lose a phone, you grab another phone, you put your keys in, you synchronize with the fingerprint, and all your data and all your apps come back. But you're the only one that has access to them. Instead of with Google and Apple, every Tom, Dick, and Harry has access to them. And what happens within the Apple environment and the Google environment? One key holds all of your data, all of it, like all your search data, all of your GPS data, all of your passwords, all of your authentication, all of your even two-factor authentication, it's all held within one key. That's why Google bought all these different companies and took it down to one domain with one key. And when they get a FISA request from different agencies, they say, hey, this phone number, this name, and this email, we want everything on it, and you can't say anything about it. That's why if you read the book Tools and Weapons, which by the way, I hugely recommend you read, like Tools and Weapons spells this all out. So again, as a recap, if we take a photo and break that photo into 1,000 pieces and you have a cryptographic key, that key can then be broken into different environments and stored in different environments. By the way, someone should talk to us about building some of this environment. And then all around the world where the individual is the only one with the actual key to get back to it. So with that being said, I went through a lot of stuff. There's a lot of topics, a lot of wonderful opportunities, but does anybody have any questions, feedback, thoughts, comments, anything? Time is yours. Aloha. Yes, Real ID actually uses cryptographic technology. And with what General Flynn was saying, he's right when we talk about Real ID and cryptographic, because it is centrally controlled. So everything that license does now is totally centrally controlled. And what that means is everything that happens with it, people can actually link up, and AI can link it all up. So to that perspective, General Flynn is 100% correct. But if there's derived keys involved, the human can be obfuscated from the transaction and private and protected. Does that make sense? Becca, why don't you lead a council that drives awareness? And why don't you literally just, you get it, you see it, you understand it. Today, stand it up today, because we don't have much time left. You see it. I try and tell the world about it. And when people like you can get it, and you see the difference, maybe you can say it in a different way where people, because these are people that I respect. Like, for instance, when we jump into some of these other ones, like this gentleman right here. I was out in DC, tried to meet with, this guy was an interesting one to catch up with, but listen to some of the stuff that they talk about. How long? Just a minute 30. So did you have another question or? Yeah, you're spot on. But it's something that people need to truly understand. And a lot of the things he's going to talk about will be around innovation.
One of the reasons I came out from behind my desk and asked President Trump if I could join the campaign, then when he asked me to be in the cabinet, was because I was so alarmed by this high level of government spending. We've never seen anything like this. Highest level ever when we weren't in a war or in a recession. So the Biden administration relied on this blowout spending back to the mainstream media. No one criticized it when they were doing it because it was for the great and the good. It was for green programs. It was for this. It was for overseas engagement. Now what we're trying to do is do a course correction where we bring down the government, we deleverage the government and re-lever the private sector. We're going to do that by cutting spending, the lowering interest. We'll get a natural lowering of interest rates. And then on the other side, as we re-lever the private sector. We plan to deregulate the banking system, which was one of the things I talked about at the Economic Club of New York last week. So as we allow the banking, as we unshackle a regulated banking system, they can lend to the private sector, and especially Main Street, which has been overlooked. So small regional banks, small banks, community banks. And so as the government comes down, the private sector will go up. Government will shed excess labor, and there's plenty of it. And then the private sector will pick it up.
So that's going to be some of these shifts that they talk about financially. This is going to be something around, by the way, anybody have any feedback on that? I know we have a bunch of finance buffs in here. Thoughts, comments, feedback there? If not, we'll jump to the next one.
Currency is here to stay. We want to innovate in America before we overregulate it. We had a framework put in place led by Senator Haggerty, Senator Lummis, myself, making sure that the stable coins to understand stable coins, it's kind of like a traveler's check on the blockchain. It gives people more access to the resources, and it will reduce the cost of doing business in America. A leap in the right direction. We will be the country that leads in the cryptocurrency footprint for generations to come. It's another promise made by President Trump on the campaign trail, another promise that we're keeping in our legislative agenda and priorities. The American people can rest assured that democratization is here to stay, and it will get better and better as we move these bills to the president's desk to be signed into law. It was a really good week. Cryptocurrency.
So that was the one I wanted to show you around the innovation to make your point, Becca. It wasn't the other one, but they're all very relevant and very important and tied to the message around the opportunity that we have. But it's important for us to get through the noise and understand how is it that humans can actually do this. And what if I told you that if we did a couple things, really simple things, when we get a driver's license, whether it's a physical driver's license or a digital license, legislation could get passed to say someone could actually have an ID that could be verified by them. So there's what's called a zero knowledge proof, where they can prove who they are. Whether it's a license for a car or a license for a person, the ability for an individual that owns the asset without giving up their identity to verify who they are is all that has to happen for this obfuscation to take place for the future of humanity. I know in some ways it may sound simple, in some ways it may just be that doesn't make any sense, but if we could figure out a way, literally, to tell the world that there is a solution, and then it's just a matter of adoption. That's all it comes down to. So I know I get excited about it, but it's just so right there. Like 15 years we've been building for this time, and the solutions are right there, but they're so misunderstood by even people that we love and respect. I mean, Tucker Carlson. And on one hand, he's like, we thought it was going to be the solution, but we don't see it. So hopefully, maybe there's a way that we could help drive awareness to help people to understand there is a path. As we all go down this digital road, it's going to come apart to a centralized versus decentralized environment. And if everybody doesn't have to pick one or the other, but they do need to align some way to see centralized digital control will equal slavery. Decentralized systems can equal freedom and liberty. And when people start understanding there's a path, right now they don't even know that there's a choice. I mean, what we just showed you with Tucker and with General Flynn and with Kevin O'Leary, these are three grown men that are very intelligent and they're in the middle of things, yet they don't see it. How do we serve humanity better? How do we teach folks that there's another way, there's an alternative? Is it perfect? No, I'm sure there's tons of things that can be fixed. Is it new? yeah, it's within the last 15 years, this stuff's come out. Is it out there? No, I think it's one of the best kept secrets humanity's ever seen. So with that being said, questions, thoughts, comments? We've got 15 minutes left. The time is yours. It sounds great. And maybe we could formally, if you go through, I think it's actually here, Digital World, if you go to councils, and then you can scroll down, there's different councils. If you just go to, like, your topic is around awareness, so that would be like a marketing council or education. Would it be education? I think it would be. So all people have to do is basically grab whatever Life app they want, and then they click here, scan this, and it drops them right into these councils. So literally, it's just that simple. Or if you've got a Life app, if anybody wants to, you should actually scan, you should click this and scan your own, but I'll drop this URL in. So I think that's probably the closest one. Maybe consumers. That's Sam Smith that I mentioned earlier. Okay. There should be some, the basic communication stuff should come within the Digital World legislation stuff. If we don't have it there, let me know, and we could get that done, so you don't have to do it council by council. But thank you for awareness. Other thoughts? Okay. And you know what's nice is within the Life app, there's actually a communication channel when people join up to different communication systems. And when we launch the social platform, which is a whole other opportunity, by the way, we're still moving forward with the Candel stuff that we talked about, where it's social, it's, how do you actually get a home? How do you get a car? How do you get a bicycle? How do you get a scooter? How do you validate who you are? How do you go on different adventures? And basically you be you and you be paid for you, instead of being a part of the system and being profiled without getting paid, but your identity being shared. How do we turn that on its head, where you actually get paid with your identity being private? And a lot of that's going to tie into that communication channel. All of us, if you're on a social platform, you have some similar type channel where you don't do it through email, you do it through the system, so to speak. So that's actually built into the Clear Life protocol and app, whether it's Clear Life or Vanuatu Life or Fiji Life or Samoa Life or Hawaiian Life or American Life or Mexican Life or Canadian Life, whatever country and currency and language you speak, there's a platform that can actually link across the globe to one another. So that's probably the right long-term way to do it. But if you want to do it through email, that's fine as well, because it's got to start somewhere. So thank you, Becca. Other thoughts? feedback, criticism, negativity, positivity, anything you want to go over? I'd like to say welcome to Jesse, who's joined us, just happenstance. He comes out of the legal industry, but he spent time over in Europe as well as Africa. And when he started, he heard that I was having a digital world town hall meeting, and the perspective was one world, one people. It was like, hey, that's my kind of talk. Can I join in? So welcome. Hopefully this is something that he's in the legal industry. So hopefully this is something he sees some value in as well. So other thoughts or comments, or we can convene early today if you don't have anything to say. Boy, there's a lot of powerful people on here, and everybody's got their lips closed, which is fine. But, well, we'll give you 30 seconds, and then we will convene for the night if there's nothing else you want to say. It's mandatory. This is the third time they pushed it out. Very mandatory. Well, I actually tested that. So I actually went in and I actually had an old ID that wasn't one, and it was bit up by a dog by design. And I said, this is all I have, but I have a plane to catch. And they basically just make you feel dumb, feel alone, put you in your own line, make you wait, make it inconvenient, and then they take all your stuff and they stick it in the little machine and they pop it out the other end and they basically pat you down, which doesn't matter for me because I always opt out and pat down anyways. And while I do it, I say, oh, when they want you to put your ID in, I say I opt out of the photo because that's not just a photo. That's biographically actually mapping your face into their systems. So opt out of the photo, opt out of the ID, even if you don't have one. And basically what they do is they just delay you. They search you. They have you, would you like a public screening? Would you like, we're going to pat you down and put these fingers, blah, blah, blah. And they make you feel like you have done something wrong. But that's all they have to do, and most of society will just conform. It's just like we give away all of our data online because of convenience. It's the same thing. So I urge you, just go to the airport, look at the lines. We're like cattle that are being herded. That one has a blue sticker on it. That one has a red sticker on it. You know, they just route them. And so the net is, I don't believe it's going to mean a whole lot of anything. It's just one of their ways to control. For those that are now looking back at COVID for what it is, in January, I posted on Facebook, this is not about a virus, it's about financial reset and digital control. And I had so many people say, how dare you? You're so wrong. You're so crazy. Why? You're going to kill people because you think it's not about the sickness. We need to stick a mask on. We need to social distance. We need to let people go from their jobs if they don't get vaccinated. If they don't, I don't know what your perspective is on all this stuff, but basically early on we were saying this is about control. And here we are with the financial reset that it was all about. And the digital side of it is totally control. What General Flynn was saying was right, but if we say it in a different way, it's more accurate. It's not that crypto is going to control, it's digital is going to control. And in the digital world, we've got to have crypto that is, or cryptography that is math that is derived keys on one path and centralized on another path. And so it's just massively, massively important. But the real ID stuff, they're going to try and enforce. And in my opinion, it's a human right to be able to have privacy. It's a human right to be able to travel, and it's a human right to be able to transact. And you can transact privately. That doesn't mean that you're hiding. That doesn't mean that what you did is something that should be separated from the systems. Because I see a future where reports and audits and anything that you submit, all of that stuff can all be basically done, like returns, can all be done automatically. You don't need to jump through all these hoops, but it has to be done in a system that is using technology that can actually be intelligently organized to set us free. And that's what this is all about. Intelligently organized technology with certain types of keys and signs that's based upon us, our physical being. Like a finger has a certain uniqueness. A face has a certain uniqueness. The ability to wear something, whether it's a watch or a ring or what crazy people would say under the skin, which I think is a form of the mark of the beast. All of this stuff, literally, it has its place and it's very important and it's very real. But we must recognize it and then drive awareness for how it can actually be adopted in the future. Otherwise, future generations will literally just listen to what some of these folks have to say and take it at face value. And again, I'm not saying that some of the things they're talking about is right or wrong. As a matter of fact, I listen to stuff like this and I think, wow, there's some truth mixed in there with some untruth. So listen to this.
You don't even own your own car.
It's already happening. People think it's about clean energy, about progress, but that's just the cover story. What's really happening is a total shift in control. Your ability to move freely is being erased, piece by piece. Look at what's coming. 15-minute cities, smart cars, geofencing. The moment gas-powered cars are banned, every vehicle will be locked into a centralized grid. No more high-speed chases, no more escapes. If they don't want you to go somewhere, your car just won't start. It's that simple. They say it's for safety, to stop criminals, reckless drivers. That's how they sell it. But who decides who the criminals are? What happens when you just disagree, criticize the wrong policy, attend the wrong protest, and suddenly your smart car is just a brick sitting in your driveway? And it gets worse. They're turning cars into subscriptions. You'll pay extra for range, for speed, hell, maybe even for the privilege of driving at all. Those new EVs, cameras, microphones, always watching, always listening. They're not just banning gas cars, they're banning freedom, and no one sees it coming.
This is just a theory, not a fact. A future where you don't even...
So I won't emphasize any of that stuff. All I'm trying to say is there are solutions to these. There are literally decentralized paths. For instance, a lot of the things he talked about, what about a vehicle that you can actually subscribe, which I totally agree with the direction of subscription. By the way, hardware, software services for predictable monthly fees, the world we've all grown up in. Like some of the folks on this call, myself and I, literally over 30 years, we've been building these subscriptions, not just for servers and printers and PCs, but for cell phones and now for autos. Imagine if you can get an auto with a digital US dollar for $199, which includes the vehicle insurance as well as maintenance, but the data is actually yours. The recording is yours. The ability to actually drive revenue off of these vehicles is yours. Now, they may not be the latest and greatest and all that, but the point that I'm driving at is you can literally get everything, one fee, and it builds off of a reputation that's a decentralized reputation. It doesn't tie to your existing centralized Equifax, TransUnion, Experian type credit system in the normal banking system. Think about this type of a decentralized future where you don't even need your name. Your reputation can actually get you a subscription. The way you pay for it can actually get you into these systems. It's a matter of what you choose to be a part of, what you choose to register, license, and permit. You don't have to just jump into that ecosystem that they were talking about with programmable cars and programmable money. Yes, there's a programmable money law. By the way, I don't think that this has been undone with the Trump administration yet, but I see that a decentralized future where people really own their own assets and their own identity so that they don't become a part of the centralized system if they don't agree with certain things or do certain things. Because we've all just seen leadership that can basically take over a country. But if we understand the importance of us as individuals and the power that we as individuals have in our voices, in our ability to vote every time we purchase something, whether it's an egg sandwich or a dozen eggs or a vehicle or a house or anything, whenever we purchase something, the currency we use, where we purchase it from, all of these things are votes that actually matter. So I appreciate everyone's involvement tonight. Anything, last comments, feedback before we convene? If not, thank you for being here. Yes. Totally. Yeah, but the passport's the same difference as the real ID. It's got the same types of cryptographic. It's even got more abilities to track and surveil. So, but you're right, Susan. You're right. Real ID or a passport in most environments will actually work. One of the things with Real ID is they're actually saying you can't go into a governmental building, and a governmental building through the FDIC is actually a bank. So you can't even go into a bank to get a bank account without an ID. And I wonder if you could open up a bank account with a passport. I would think that you could, but the net is we need to do our part to help bring systems. And it's not just the systems. Danielle, you're spot on. It's the education. Becca, you're spot on. It's the awareness. We need to actually go through the legal process and the legislative process in counties and states to help these different lawmakers, the same ones that said we will not have CBDCs. Supposedly America is not going to have CBDCs and Utah is not going to have CBDCs. But do they know why? And what are they going to have? Because there can be a decentralized digital currency that can be the future. And just like Tether has historically been that of the past with a stable asset, or whether it's USDC, I see a future where Bitcoin, BTC, has a direct pair with a digital Bitcoin that's real time and actually protects the identity. Not like what happens within the Lightning Network. So the Lightning Network is an environment, multiple countries are rolling out. And when they roll it out, then they figure out, oh, we actually need to know certain information about the person, full name, date of birth, address, phone number, email address, proof of blah, blah, blah. And then they literally link that centralized identity to a decentralized system, which the world looked at as Lightning, which has been taken over. Originally, it was intended to be decentralized but real time. But literally, Visa and banks and these countries that rolled it out in good faith, El Salvador, Argentina, Nigeria, Panama, they tried to do good for their citizens. But when they tie to banking systems, they actually have to go and get these types of requirements. But what happens in the future if someone could actually go to a real bank or a real driver's license environment and actually get a license? So here, I'll pull up this Mexican environment. Look at these different licenses, right? So we've got a birth certificate, a marriage certificate, a driver's license. Actually, I think that's down below. This is a good example of a driver's license, right? Or a vehicle registration. So you could actually do it, but if you look really close, you find that the name is obfuscated unless there's a request and then an approval for certain information to be divulged, and then it can be pulled back. Kind of like how we have shared docs and shared spreadsheets. You can share things and then you can pull them back. Can people take screenshots? Sure. Can people not take certain screenshots? Sure. Anyways, Thank you for attending. Thank you for all of your time and your attention. And Danielle, I think you and Becca are spot on with helping to educate and drive awareness. Whereas I think a lot of the things that the digital world and the clear companies have been focused on is one of the best kept secrets in the world, which is not what should be in the future. So thank you for all you do. We'll be tuning off March 18th, 2025. Much love, everyone, and mahalo. Bye.